Greetings, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm releasing a bonus podcast to announce, actually, on my other podcast show that I produce and broadcast, not just this one here, Surviving Your Journey to Success, but I also have another podcast. It's focusing on my love of writing, and I love to write stories. For instance, of my writing that I do, not just nonfiction, but also work that I like to inspire in my stories that I write. So my other podcast show is Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, and I'm very excited about a new epic story that I'm releasing. It will debut next month in February, for the month of February. It's called Atlantis. So I actually announced it on my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, and then I decided to actually release that press release on this podcast show, Surviving Your Journey to Success. For those listeners that might not be aware that I have another podcast show and might be interested tuning in to that show, particularly to this new epic story that I'm releasing the full short next month. So if you're interested, please tune in. So what you're about to hear is the press release announcement that I did and released over a week ago now to the followers that have been following me on that podcast show. So you will get to hear that and hopefully go to subscribe. And the feature release, it will start February the 4th, all right, that Monday. So here it is, my press release regarding my other podcast show, my new epic story. It is tied to MOLIAE YouTube channel. I did release a video clip, so please go there as well. I'm going to put the link actually in this description box if you want to click and see my presentation of my new short story. And this, what you're about to hear of that press release that I'm talking about, it gives you more detail of the story and pretty much how my podcast works in that regard. So thank you so much for your support, for tuning into this podcast show, Surviving Your Journey to Success, and hopefully you'll be interested in my other show. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my bonus podcast I'm releasing today. This particular podcast today is just going to highlight a new epic story that came to me about a month or so ago. I wanted to give my take on Atlantis. That's what I'm calling it, and wanted to share some background information of how I'm presenting my take on this infamous place and the people that dwell there. Okay, so basically the timeline here, and this is of course Atlantis. It's an expansion of my production MOLIAE, which is my heart of hearts. If you've been following me for a while, I have told you the story of MOLIAE, and so it's an expansion of that universe. Okay, so let's get started with a couple of things. I just wanted to give some background and some other details about this particular new epic story. And I like to start with the timeline. I'm a history buff. I love research and I just think it brings more into the cultural element of a particular story. When you know the time frame, it gives you more details about the overall of this existence that I'm creating, right? That I'm talking about and my take on it. So the first thing is the timeline. With this particular version of Atlantis, for me, my timeline is before the second deluge, the flood, during the time of the Sumerians and others as mentioned in the book of Genesis. So it is where we find the Sumerian king list, okay, describing the first settlement of them on Tamat, which is another name for what we call now planet Earth. So this is way or the time frame after it's mentioned in a sense in the epic of creation regarding the solar celestial system, right, to what we are calling planets. So at this time of my version of Atlantis is where the Sumerian king list offers the listing of the governorships, right, of the first 10 Anik leaders, okay, before the second deluge, right, calling these years would be SARS. So you'll hear me say SARS, which is SARS, SARS. And it's basically the time, the divine time, which would be before the celestial time, when basically the known planets from one universe to ours created a gravitational type pull, right? We're calling the 12th planet, and rearrange this particular realm of planets to what we are seeing now, okay? All right, in the alignment now. So they was aligned differently before the 12th planet, you could say, from one galaxy into the next, into this one. And that element erupted to a new different position of stages and orbit. And orbit is another way, if you look at it in a spiritual sense, destinies, okay? A new path. So that regarded a very strong and divine leadership on Tamat, which we're calling now Earth, right? And that's where you get the Sumerian king list. Why do I feel it's in a sense connected to the Sumerians? It's because the Sumerians also have a link to what we call Egypt or Kemet or Mitzrayim. And so in that timeline, it's before that emergence to where we call Egypt or what have you. So it's before that. And so the Sumerians, a lot of things goes back to that, to their mathematics, to their culture, to the wisdom that has been documented and continue to correlate to the books that we use to in a religious or spiritual way. But Atlantis will be mainly focused on a family. But I just want to kind of give that timeline of what I'm looking at, and that's where I'm basing all of this. So with that retrospect, the family is those of Akobi, Acobi. And when I'm coming into this particular story of my take on it, he's the direct generation of the original Sumerian king, one of the kings, right, that was granted authority on certain parts of the planet. And in that regard, he's could be the fourth or the fifth generation. And also make note that time reference, what we call here on earth, is different when you go outside of this realm, right? Time changes. So I will make references of that in my podcast episodes, but just to kind of put it out there that we can't really identify, because what we might feel is 100 years is actually can be more than that in that sense. So I don't want to get too technical in that, but I want to be able to give a background and a foundation that with Atlantis, it just came to my spirit that I definitely have to correlate and integrate a lot of science, astronomy, cosmology, a lot of element into that. And what also really came to me when I started writing the first scene was leadership. And with me, the visions come first, and then the characters are named. And I already pretty much have a good understanding of their connection and relationship to one another. And then I bring in the history to connect it, and it fits like a puzzle. It's weird. It's like it's backwards for me, right? And that's what gives me more confirmation that I'm on the right path, that I'm picking up the good vibes. So you're going to see a lot of technology too that I picked up with Atlantis. And again, with the history and leadership. So it all ties back when, sure enough, there was an actual list of kings designated, and more further knowledge of the history of this particular universe that we're living in now with the planets. And it all correlate to this family as one of those leaders that have to keep the balance within beyond Tamat and on Tamat, and have a certain destination of land. So let's talk about the family. We talked about Akobi, he's the father. Well, I'll come into this story where he has two young children. They are twins. They are a brother and a sister, Arente and Maketo. And it's a brother and sister twinship. And they're born in a time where there's new hope to bring stability in the region of planet Earth and the other planets around. And although on the top it seems Atlantis might not be the same size that you can compared to another area. Actually, it was both underground and underwater and above water. That's what I pick up, right? That's what I feel to go with. And the older brother, they have an older brother, Matum. He's older than way older. He's already ruling the northern part of Atlantis. Kobe would be still control of the center of Atlantis. And when the twins get a certain age, about 19 or 20 or so, they both inherit the rulership of the southern part of Atlantis. So we're looking at the north, the center, and the south. For some reason, if we're looking at how we talk about the west and the east, that's not coming up for me to focus on, as if that was the case, Kobe is still ruling that center, right? From the center to the rest of the east. But Matum is in the north, and Arinte and Maketo is in the south. And this particular time, they just got crowned to rule that part of the region of Atlantis. So we're definitely talking about a lot of area, but again, it's above water and under, right? So their technology is very advanced in that region. They're almost in the center of a vortex, if you can kind of think of it in that way. And so we're coming into a story that something occurs that not yet to reveal, still those that want to create disharmony in the cosmos that directly impact Tamat, where Akobi was one of the generational passed on kings or rulers in that region to keep the peace. So they also have the mother is Lajini, and she plays a significant role in teaching Maketo and Arinte a certain science, both mentally and spiritually. So you get that. And Matum, his wife, and other associates within the Council of Leadership. You're going to hear that a lot again, leadership, which I'm excited about because I think leadership is important in life, and responsibility and giving and receiving is the circle of life. So you will see a lot of that. So I'm very excited with Atlantis. I hope you are, as I take this journey, and that you tune in for the weeks that I'm releasing the full short, introducing this new story to expand it on. I will take a break from it as I return back to MOLIAE, starting thereafter in March, April, and May to end my second season on my podcast show, and we'll return Atlantis back. I'm not sure when, as I'm developing the story. It's a whole type of universe in a sense of a new aspect of this, so I want to really be able to build that up and how these new characters come to life, as well as new terminology and a new language that I'm basically creating and bringing forth to you, that you can enjoy my passion to write and to also inspire in my writing. Okay, all right, thank you so much, and please support the podcast. If you like it, please share it. I have apps. Please download my app, share that as well. And I'm looking forward to this new adventure of writing Atlantis. Thank you.